Hey guys, it's me, and today I am here with a new video for you guys. So today we're going to be doing a makeup collection and declutter video. Yes, I'm going to be showing you guys my entire makeup collection today, and we're going to be doing just little bits of decluttering here and there. This is mostly just a collection video, but I do need to organize and do some decluttering as well, and so we're going to be doing that today. So I'm going to start out by showing you guys how my makeup is currently stored, and then I will show you guys the end results after reorganizing and doing some decluttering. Like I mentioned before, there's not going to be a whole lot of decluttering happening, so if you want to see things get decluttered, just keep in mind that that's not really going to be happening that much today. And the reason why I want to go ahead and start reorganizing and decluttering today is because of the fact that since it is coming to the end of the year, I already know what's going to wind up happening, and that is that I'm going to be buying new products. I'm going to probably get some gift money at the end of the year and buy a few things here and there and whatnot with said gift money. So I want to make room for some new products, and also since I work in the beauty industry, I work in beauty retail and have been doing so for over 2 years now, I get gratis. So I get product for free. And so sometimes I keep those new things that I get for free and gratis, and sometimes I just throw them into my box of things to declutter and rehome and whatnot. So it just depends on whether or not I'm actually going to keep it. Also, by the way, if I am looking a bit bummy and doing a beauty video without wearing any makeup today, I'm actually planning on decluttering and reorganizing my entire room today and whatnot, so I don't want to put that much effort into my appearance today. And also, yesterday was Black Friday. I had to work. I don't feel like doing shit today. So I just have my hair up in a bun, which I just refreshed my color a few days ago and whatnot. I'll show you guys some photos over here as to how it looks both curly and straightened. Let's go ahead and get started. But before we do so, if you guys are new here to my channel, don't forget to hit subscribe, and also while you're down there, definitely give this video a thumbs up because that'll help me out a lot. All my links are down in the description box below, which are in the links to my Twitter, Instagram, and my music channel, so definitely check me out on those places if you are interested. And yeah, let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to go ahead and show you guys how things are stored right now and how things are looking right now in my drawers. So I have a Alex drawer unit from IKEA, and I keep my makeup in 4 of the 5 drawers. The bottom drawer is just a junk drawer. We're not going to look in that today. First drawer is dedicated to all my face products, so like foundation, concealer, primers, blush, bronzer, highlighters, things like that go into that first drawer. Second drawer is gonna be eyeliners, mascaras, and lipsticks, liquid lipsticks, bullet lipsticks, glosses, all that good stuff is in that second drawer. And then the third drawer is nothing but palettes, and then the fourth drawer is mostly palettes, but I also have a few tools here and there, some tweezers, things like that. So we're going to start out with the face drawer. So this drawer definitely needs a lot of help. This one is becoming so chaotic and whatnot, so I definitely need to tame this drawer in particular. The first thing that I want to touch on is what this guy is. So this is a Bath & Body Works candle lid that I actually use as a palette for foundation, concealer, and whatnot. So I'll mix my foundations or just plop foundations in general onto this guy. Sometimes if I have a concealer that's in a pump, I'll pop it on here. So yeah, that's what this guy is for. I've been using it for years, and I'm finally gonna throw this one away because I don't know if you guys will be able to see, because I know it's reflective and I'm gonna be able to see everything happening on my desk and whatnot, but this guy is very dirty. I am going to get rid of a candle that I have because I think mine, because I didn't burn it for a very, very long time, I think all the good smelly goodness from it has gone away, which is a bit sad because I did really love the scent. Also, I just don't burn candles. I also keep my beauty blenders in that face drawer, so I just have a regular basic pink one, and then I have the little Gemini limited edition one that they had come out a couple of years ago. So I keep those in the drawer as well because it's easier to store them in there. And I'll usually just set them in the candle lid when it's upside down in the drawer. So I'll continue that process over when I bring over that other candle lid into the drawer. Next thing that I know for a fact that I can part with is gonna be this little guy right here. So this is a little rollerball bottle of Wild Poppy from Nest. This was from the birthday gift that you could get online from Sephora this year. And with this, you got this little guy, a little tiny baby roller of the vanilla fragrance oil, and then one of their little mini candles in eucalyptus. I think was the scent on it. I know eucalyptus was in it, but I think there might have been something else in there. I already went through the candle, didn't really care for it, didn't do much and whatnot. And then this guy, I actually emptied out the contents of this guy and put it into an atomizer because I don't like roller balls. I just don't. They're also not very sanitary, so there's also that. So I just put the contents of this guy into a atomizer and I've been using it that way, which I am almost done with it now. Also, by the way, because this is just a little bit less than a typical travel size from Nest. I think this is about maybe like 2/3 of a size of a travel, I think. So if I'm not mistaken, it could be a little bit less than that. It's not my favorite scent from Nest. My favorite scent from Nest is Indigo. Love that one. Love that one so much. I like this guy, but I am gonna throw away this bottle. I held on to it because I thought that I was gonna do like a big collective haul from like around like my birthday and everything, but I just never got around to doing it. So it's time to say goodbye to this guy, and I'm just gonna toss this in the trash. These two guys, I thought about throwing out one of these tubes, but it still is working out for me, even though that the big tube is expired. But they are these 2 tubes of the Unseen Sunscreen from Supergoop. So I got this little guy here from, I think, a vendor recently, and this one I haven't started using yet, but the expiration date on it is December of this year. Because of the fact that this tube, I've had this for a while. I got this last year in gratis through a vendor, and this guy expired April of last year. No, so I probably got this like towards the end of 2021 actually. So yeah, this guy is very well expired, but it hasn't been breaking me out and it still functions properly, so I'm going to continue using it. So yeah, really love the Unseen Sunscreen. It's great SPF for the face, and it also works well as a primer. Before we actually get into the trays, I gotta touch on these face palettes here. So I have these 2 little face palettes. This one here is from Kyla, formerly known as Mise Beauty, and this is their Color Wash in Youth and Play. And I got this last year, right around Black Friday. I think it was towards the end of the year last year, I believe, when I got this guy. And this wasn't even something I had initially planned on ordering from them, because I got this when the brand was going out of business. And I got 2 of their eyeshadow palettes, which I decluttered one of them. I still have one, which I'm thinking about decluttering. The collector in me wants to keep it, but the part of me that like wants to keep things because I know that I'll use them and whatnot. So like the formula is not my favorite. It's not my favorite eyeshadow formula, but these are cream blushes. It's a cream blush duo. You have Youth and Play here, and this is a really nice formula. I prefer the formula on Youth here because it's just really nice and creamy, and the color is really beautiful, and the color on Play is also really nice, but the formula on it is a little bit trickier for me to work with. It takes a lot of building to get this one to show up on the skin, and I also don't really care for the sparkle that's in it either. And then too, like, the sparkle just doesn't really translate on the skin and whatnot. And I think also with it being such a warm tone shade too, I mean, like, this guy has a lot of yellow in it. I'm more of like a neutral pink undertone, so because of that, it's just not the most flattering on my skin. But this Youth shade here, lovely. If I can find a dupe for this, I will part with this little duo here, but I'm gonna keep it for now because I do really like the formula and I do really like the color. And then I have the Wet n Wild Alice in Wonderland curiouser and curiouser highlighter palette. And I actually had a highlighter palette like this from Wet n Wild years and years and years ago. I think it was called the illuminating palette, the Mega Glow illuminating palette. I think that's what it was called. And it had like a similar layout. Like you had like a pale pink, a champagne, a deeper pink that was more so like a shimmery blush, and then like a bronzy highlight shade. And I really liked that palette a lot, but the formula on it was a bit drier and it didn't have that much shine to it, whereas with this guy has a good amount of shine to it. It's really pretty. Something that I like to do is that I like to mix all 4 shades together, because mixing all 4 makes a beautiful color. And if you hear the sirens going, excuse them. I kind of sort of live in the city, but I also live on the outskirts of the city. I'm like in between the burbs and the rurals. Rurals? Who made up that word? That word does not make any sense. Anyways, really love the formula on this guy right here. Looks beautiful on the skin, lasts really well, and these colors are all really, really nice and whatnot. Like I said, I'll mix them all together. I only have used the white on its own. I haven't used the pink on its own, and I don't know if I'll ever use the lavender on its own, but I know for a fact I won't use the gold on its own because I know it's not going to look good on me. Now let's actually start moving on into the trays, and we'll start out with this first one here, which mostly has blushes in it. There is one regular face powder in here, and we'll talk about that guy first. First thing that I got here is an item that I got in gratis, and this is from One Size, and this is the Turn Up the Base Versatile Foundation Powder, and I have the shade Fair 2R, and like I said, I got this in gratis. This is what the product itself looks like in the pan. This is the outside component. Really lovely packaging on this. Now, me, I don't use powder foundation, and I don't really use powders to set my makeup, but like I said, I got this in gratis, and I'm holding on to this for a particular video. Now, I did fish out 2 foundations from my declutter box for that same video, because I want to do like another and like following my old makeup routine videos. So that's why I have this guy out from like the days when I would lightly set my face, but I think I stopped doing that around the time when I want to do like the other following my old makeup routine video, but I would still use powder on my under eyes, and that's what I'm going to use this guy for. And then after that video, I will part with this guy. So for the time being, I'm going to keep it. But I will say this though, the formula on this is actually really nice. It behaves really nicely, very finely milled. Even though it's a pressed powder, it works really nicely. It's really soft. It's not heavy at all. And honestly, I kind of like the formula on this more than the setting powder. The setting powder, I find, although it is nice, I think that this is just a little bit softer than the setting powder. All right, so the next guy that I have here is going to be the LYS Hired Standard Satin Matte Cream Blush in the shade Kindness. And this is the color here, and this is the outside packaging. I really love this product. I love this little formula right here. I want to try out more. I mentioned this in one of my Am I Gonna Buy This videos, that I really do want the trio set that they have available for holiday this year, and I definitely plan on getting it. I was close to getting it like this week and everything, but I mean, like, it's not on sale or anything like that, which, by the way, I did order something this week for Black Friday, and it's actually going to be delivered tomorrow. So I thought about waiting to do this video till Monday, but I do need a video to go up on Monday. But this is a lovely color. It's like a neutral peachy kind of tone. Really lovely color. Lovely formula. Definitely want to try out more of their blushes. This guy I just got in gratis. I just brought this home yesterday, and this is from KVD, and this is their blush in Rosebud. And first of all, packaging is stunning, and this is the color here. It is like a rosy mauve kind of tone. It's so pretty. It is so pretty. I'm not the biggest fan of powder blushes. I think I've mentioned that before. I am more of a cream blush kind of person, but I definitely I'm looking forward to trying this guy out because just by swatching it, it is very sheer. It's very lightweight. So I think I'll actually get on with this formula quite well. Because a lot of the powder blushes that I've tried over the years just have a little too much pigment to them. Whereas this, I feel, is going to be way more buildable. And because of that, I think I'm going to like this guy a lot more. And the last blush that I have is my favorite blush in my collection, and this is a Super Shock blush from ColourPop. This is in Between the Sheets, and it is stunning. Now, I did hit pan on this, but because of the fact that it's a cream and I use this quite regularly, it did cover up the pan recently, but just note that I did hit pan on this guy. I love this blush so much. It is a neutral tone blush, goes with every look and everything. It is stunning. I love this blush so much. I know that this is going to be something that I will repurchase, and it is hard for me to say that I will repurchase a makeup product because there are times where it's just like I'll use something and once it's gone, it's just gone, or I won't even use it all the way before I get rid of it. This is an item that I can see myself using all the way up. So, yeah. And I've only had this guy but for about maybe a year, and I've used it so much. The second tray here is bronzers and highlighters. Starting out with the two bronzers that I have, both of which have been discontinued. This first one here is a mini of the Marc Jacobs Omega bronzer in Fantastic. And as you guys can see, I have used this guy quite a bit, but when you look at the size to try to see like the divot in the pan, it doesn't look like I've used it that much. And I wound up learning through seeing like people with the full size of this who use it regularly, this bronzer will last you forever. And I low-key want to get the full size because although I do like the fact that this is a mini, it's a lot easier for me to store. And since I don't wear makeup very often, I know the full size is like nearly the size of my head. But I still kind of want to get the full size of it though, because I do really love this bronzer. But the only way I'll be able to get the full size is if I get it off of Mercari, which I'm not opposed to. I've gotten makeup off of Mercari many times before. I am debating on whether or not I actually want to go through and do that. Because, I mean, Marc Jacobs Beauty, the beauty brand, has been away for a while. They are going to be making a comeback, I think, within the next year or two. I can't remember if they're supposed to be coming out with their first launch since disappearing sometime in 2024 or 2025. I can't remember which is supposed to be, but I cannot wait for them to make a comeback because I hope that they bring back this formula because this formula is so good. And also part of the reason why I want to get the full size is because the packaging on this mini is so fucking annoying. It is so annoying trying to open this thing. And the second bronzer that I have, again, is something that's been discontinued. And this is from Makeup Geek, and this is their Sun Kissed bronzer. And this is a beautiful bronzer. Fantastic. It's more like a neutral warm bronzer. This is just straight up warm. But the thing is though, is that it looks so good on my skin. It is so hard for me to find bronzers that will actually warm up my skin without them looking orange on me. This doesn't look orange on me. It actually warms up the skin without going orange. I don't know what Marlena had going on when she was creating this particular bronzer, but she created like such an amazing bronzer color for my skin tone. Because I have tried a lot of different bronzers over the years, and like I said, they're all very orange leaning on me. And like this one and Fantastic have been the only bronzers that I have tried in the several years that I've been trying out bronzers and wearing bronzer and whatnot, that I'm like, I love this. I actually really love this. A close second is gonna be the Juvia's Place light bronzer palette, but the thing is though is that I have to mix two shades together to get a good color for me, but even then it's still not the best color for me. This is a product that I am so torn on because part of me does want to keep it, but part of me is also like, do I really want to? And this is the Fenty Diamond Bomb in How Many Carats. I love this highlighter. I really do. But I've had this now for going on 2 years, and I went through a mini of it as well. But this particular full size though, I haven't been reaching for very often. I haven't really been reaching for it, and I'm not really sure why. It's a beautiful formula. It looks stunning on the skin. It doesn't swatch well like it, but it looks really nice on the skin. And like, I've even have worn this just on its own, like, and everything. Like, if I'm not wearing foundation and whatnot, I'll just throw this on the high points of my face and call it a look for that day. And I've done that multiple times, but I haven't been reaching for it. And I mean, I don't know if you guys can tell when you look at it in the pan. I don't know if I'll be able to show it off very well, but I have gotten a fair amount of use out of it and everything. But like I said, I'm just not reaching for it. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna go ahead and part with this guy because I have that Wet n Wild white highlighter, and I know that I'll use that guy. I know that this is something that's permanent, and I can always recommend it to people if I'm using it in videos or in photos and whatnot, and people can go out and buy it. But it's just as good as that Wet n Wild highlighter that I just showed you guys. And yeah, I'm gonna part with the Fenty. And the last two highlighters that I have are both Becca highlighters. This first one that I'm gonna show you guys is no longer available. I found this at TJ Maxx about a year ago, and this was a limited edition shade too, I think. And this is in Lilac Geode. Has a lavender pink base to it with a very strong like rose gold reflect to it. This guy is a bit of a tricky color for me to work with, but I can make it work for me. Because of that strong pink tone to it, I feel as if it cuts through a lot of that rose gold sheen in it, and it actually works well for my skin tone, and I just really love it. Beautiful color. I also don't want to part with it because Becca no longer exists and you can't get it anymore, so I kind of want to hold on to that one for just like collector's reasons. But this guy here is still around because Smashbox picked it up, and I actually got this during the 21 Days of Beauty, and this is in the shade Rose Quartz. And this guy, if you have had the Super Shock highlighter in Smoke and Whistles by ColourPop, that guy is a dupe for this shade, but I prefer the formula on this over the Super Shock highlighter formula because I have decluttered my Super Shock highlighters, because I did have not between sheets, Smoke and Whistles. That's the name of that highlighter. I decluttered that recently, like I just returned it, I think just a few days ago, and it's a beautiful color, but it's just so icy. I've tried to make the Super Shock highlighters work for me, but they just don't. They're just not what I look for in a highlighter, because I feel as if no matter what the color of the base is, they're going to look icy and kind of gray on the skin no matter what. I know it has like a bit of a goldness to it, but that pinky goldness though is what makes it work for my skin tone, and it's just lovely, absolutely lovely. I do really want to get a pressed version of Pearl, which is no longer available, so I will have to find that one on like Mercari or something like that. But I do really want to get Pearl because I had a liquid version of Pearl, but I had to declutter it because it went bad, and I just love that color so much. It's a beautiful, beautiful white highlighter. And here we have the final tray, which has foundations, concealers, primers, and setting products in it. So let's go ahead and dive on into this guy. This one is the main tray that needs help. So the first thing that I am gonna pop out of here is the Urban Decay All Nighter. I got this guy in gratis, and I actually really like it. I have never tried it before. I just have always known that it's one of the best, if not the best, setting spray on the market. I know the Until Dawn from One Size is kind of taking its place, but after that spray, this one right here, I thought that I wouldn't like it because of the fact that I have drier skin, but it actually works really well with my skin, and this is just the original formula. And then I have this guy from Cali Ray. This is the So Blown blurring primer. Got this guy in gratis as well. I really like it. It's a really nice little primer. I don't know how much I have left in it though, so I might be almost done with this guy, but it is a really nice little product, and I like this in comparison to other blurring primers because it's not very heavy on the skin. It's very lightweight. It's almost like the Smashbox I think it's the Photo Finish Primer is what it's called. It's very similar to that, but it's just a little bit of a thicker cream kind of consistency to it, which I kind of like that about this guy because I don't know, I feel as if it hydrates the skin a little bit better. I know that they have a hydrating version of that Smashbox primer though, and I do want to try it out. And while we're on the topic of primers, we'll go ahead and touch on this guy here. This is from Gucci. No, I did not purchase this. I actually got this through a vendor, and this is their Silk Primer. And this is pretty nice. I've only used it, but I think maybe 2 times, and it's a pretty nice little primer. Am I going to purchase it? No, because for one, Gucci's not cruelty free, but 2, Gucci's expensive as all hell. So it's just like, not for me. Not for me. I'll sell their products and everything and make my vendor friends happy, but that's about it. And then I also, through that same vendor, I got a little sample of their foundation. And this is in shade 110C, I believe. And I only have tested this out on the cheek, and it didn't look okay. It's just that I'm not the biggest fan of the color. They don't have a good color for me in their range. I do really like this little jar here. I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna empty out this jar and keep the jar and repurpose it. Now this little sample I do need to part with. This is a sample of the Bounce Skin Tint from Beauty Blender, and this is in the shade Light 2, I believe. And I really like this. I really like the skin tint a lot. It looks so beautiful on the skin. It wears really well. I just need to part with this guy because I've had this sample for a little while, and I just am getting worried that it's becoming a bit of like a health risk, because this little jar here from Sephora, these don't have like a full-blown seal on them, so they're probably not the best for like bacteria prevention. So yeah, I am gonna go ahead and part with this guy today, but I do really like this. A tiny little bit goes a long way. I maybe had this sample filled up about maybe halfway, maybe a little bit more than halfway, and I've worn this about maybe 5 or 6 times, maybe even more than that. I really like this guy. I like it a lot. Now let's move on into the concealers real quick. I have 3 of them here. This one here I got in gratis. It's from Colfi, and this is their Main Match Concealer. And I actually really like this concealer. I have the shade Misty Maple, and I don't necessarily like it as an under eye concealer for myself. I feel like the color just isn't the best for that, but it works really great as an eyeshadow primer. So I'm actually gonna move this into my eye drawer because I use this as an eye primer. I don't use it as a regular concealer. So I'm gonna move this into a different tray, but I am keeping it. I do like it. This next concealer is the NYX Bare With Me Concealer Serum. And I've used this a few times and I do really like it. I really like the color on this guy. I definitely wanna try it out on those no makeup days. I have the shade Light, which I believe is the 2nd shade in the range. And it has a medium coverage to it. And it just looks really good on the skin. Like I said, I want to try this out on like my no makeup days and just like pop some of this on the under eyes and do only that and whatnot. I want to try that out. I want to see if it's gonna be a good product for that. So if I just want to like brighten up my under eye a little bit and not put on any like foundation or tinted moisturizer or something like that, I want to try that out with this guy because I feel like the color is very close to my actual skin tone, and so I think I'll be able to get away with just doing that with this guy. Now with this concealer here, this one I do like the formula on. I just feel as if it's a little too brightening for me, but it pairs up nicely with another foundation that I have, because the foundation that I paired this up with, that the combo works really well with, that particular foundation I know can have a potential to oxidize, and so mixing this concealer with that foundation and whatnot makes a good combo because it helps them like even things out a bit. But this is the Hourglass Vanish Concealer, I believe is what this is called. Yeah, the Vanish Concealer. I have the shade Birch. Got this guy in gratis, and I really like this concealer. I like it a lot. I've swatched it many times before. I wound up getting it in gratis. I didn't know that I was going to be getting it, but lo and behold, I have it now and I am happy about it. Like I said, it is a bit bright for me, but it works really well. Bougie as all hell and expensive as all hell, but it's lovely. All right, now this next guy here I am gonna part with. This is from Fenty. This is the Eavesdrop and I have the shade 1. This is their skin tint, their original skin tint. I do not like this. It does not work for my skin type at all. I tried this out initially when it first came out and I had the shade 3 back then, but it was just very yellow on me. Didn't look right on me and I didn't like how it looked on the skin, so I parted with it back then. And then I got this particular one here in gratis not too long ago and I gave it a try. And again, just don't like it, so I'm gonna part with this guy. I just don't like it. Now, this is the foundation that I pair with that Hourglass concealer, and this is the Charlotte's Beautiful Skin Foundation from Charlotte Tilbury at the shade 3 Cool. Got this guy in gratis as well, and I actually really like it. It's really nice. When you look at it in the tube, it definitely looks like it's gonna be way too dark for me, but when it's actually on the skin, it doesn't look that bad. But that being said, I know that this foundation has a tendency to oxidize on some people, which is why mixing these two together is a good option for me. But I do really like this guy. Really good wear time, lovely coverage, lovely product. And then the last items that I have in this tray is my favorite foundation. This is the LYS Triple Fix Serum Foundation, and I have the shades LN3 and LP4. I mix both of these together. I do a full pump of LN3 and then a little baby pump of LP4 because LN3 is a little too neutral, but LP4 is very pink. So it adds in those pink undertones that I desperately need for a foundation to work for me, but this is also too dark for me on its own. So just a little drop of this guy and with a good amount of this, and I get a perfect match for my skin. I love this foundation so much. It looks so beautiful on the skin. It wears beautifully throughout the day, and I just love it. I love this so much, and it's also not that expensive either. I think it's only about $22, I think, and it's just stunning. All right, so this tray is looking a bit more organized now. It's still a bit crowded, but it's not as crazy looking as it was before. Now let's move on into the eyes and lips drawer. So this drawer, I'm gonna be honest with you, I'm not gonna be decluttering a whole lot from this one. Well, actually, I probably am. So yeah, let's go ahead and start out with this first tray in here. This one has liners in it. So we got some pencils in here. I got a liquid liner, and I also have some brow pencils in here too. So the brow pencils that I have here, I have one from NYX and one from ABH. The ABH is the Brow Wiz in taupe, and then the NYX is the micro brow pencil in rich auburn. I really like both of these. I really do. But I don't need both. And if I'm going to keep either one of these, I think I'm going to keep the NYX one. Because although I really do like this taupe shade works really good for my brows. Let me go ahead and swatch it a little bit here for you. It works really good for my brows. It's a very soft color. It matches my natural brow color really well. As you can see, it's very warm in comparison to that taupe. This guy matches my beard and my natural hair color. And if I go in softly enough with this guy, because this is a softer formula than the ABH is, if I go in softly enough with this, and it looks very natural. It looks like my brows are supposed to be that color. So because of that, I'm going to part with the Brow Wiz and I'm going to keep the NYX. Because I know the NYX taupe pencil is very cool toned. It is very ashy. It is nearly gray. And because of that, I didn't keep that pencil back in those days. Whereas I really like the Brow Wiz taupe because it has more of like a blondness to it. But now that they've extended the shade range for the NYX brow pencil though, I'm gonna keep this one. I still really like the Brow Wiz formula. It's a drier formula and it looks really natural, but I just prefer this one a bit more, and it's also a lot cheaper because I don't want to spend $25 on a brow pencil. I've never paid full price for a Brow Wiz, by the way. I've always have gotten them on sale, whether it be because of the 21 Days of Beauty, some random coupon that I had, or some other thing going on. I've always have gotten an Anastasia Brow Wiz on sale, but this guy is always cheap. It's always been like $10, $11. I think it might be $12 now, so maybe, I don't know, but I'd rather pay that. Even if it's full price, I'd rather pay that than having to pay full price for this guy. So I'm gonna go ahead and part ways with this guy. This one is also quite old too, so that's another reason why I want to part with it. Next up, I have a liquid liner. This is from Urban Decay. This is the 24/7 Inks liner, and I got this in gratis. I have the shade 0, which is not like Perversion, which is like the blackest black on the market, but it's like your more traditional black pencil liner color and whatnot. And so this is a liquid formula, has this triangle design on here to make it a lot easier to hold in your hands when you're doing your liner with. It also has a ball in there to shake up the product, which is really nice. I haven't gotten around to using this on my actual eyes yet. I have swatched it, and you can get a really nice fine line with it, and it's very nice little black liner. So I am gonna try this guy out eventually and actually use it. But whether or not I'm actually going to wind up keeping it, I'm not sure, because I've never really been the biggest fan of liquid liner, but I do want to at least give this guy a solid go. Alright, so next up I have 2 lip liners. Now, I'm thinking I'm going to declutter one of these today, and I'm not entirely sure which one it's going to wind up being, so I'm going to swatch them next to each other and see which one I like better. So they're both reds. The one that I've had for a bit is this one here from About Face. This is their matte, what are you called? Fixed lip liner, the matte fixed lip liner, and this is in the shade Forever Flame. It's a beautiful true red. It's a bit more on the cooler side. It's really pretty. I got this guy because with this being a vegan formula, it's going to be eye safe. Not always are vegan liners eye safe, but most of them are. And I only have ever used this on my eyes. I've never used it on the lips, and so I don't need to necessarily worry about sanitizing it. So yeah. Now, the second red liner that I just got this in gratis yesterday. This is from KVD, and this is the Everlasting Lip Liner in the shade Rosary. Yeah, they're like basically the same color. But the KVD, though, I feel is a bit more rich in tone. Let me go ahead and test this out real quick, because I just got this yesterday. It's been a while since I put anything in my water lines. So this is the Kat Von D, and now I'm going to put the About Face on this one here. Just after a couple swipes and everything, this one is just barely even showing up. The Kat Von D showed up immediately. So I'm going to part with the About Face, and I think I could probably still return this. I might do that. So yeah. So I'm going to go ahead and wipe this off. Actually, you know what? Let me just match it up and everything, so that way we're even on both eyes. But yeah, keeping the KVD and parting with the About Face. Next up, we have another pencil that I just got yesterday in gratis. This is from Give, and this is in the shade Bathwater. It's a navy. I'm going to keep this for the time being. I don't know if I'm actually ever going to really use it though, but it is a beautiful sparkly-ish kind of blue. And so I really like these kinds of colors. So I'm gonna keep it for now, but I don't know how long it's gonna last in my collection though. Then I have 2 of the NYX Epic Wear liner sticks, and I got 2 shades here. I have Dusty Mauve, which is, you guessed it, a dusty mauve emerald cut here, which I do need to sharpen this one. Because as you guys can see, it's looking a little bit nubby, but this is a gorgeous, gorgeous, like true green. I prefer, when it comes to greens, I prefer true greens, like things that aren't too blue and things that aren't too yellow. And this is a true green right here. Love this color. Lastly, I have two 24/7 Glide On pencils from Urban Decay. I have Deep End, which is a metallic teal, stunning, lovely color. And then I also have Whiskey, which is a good brown. It's not too dark, but it's not too light either. It's dark enough to give you some definition, but it's light enough to where it's not going to be that harsh. So that's why I really like this guy, and keeping both of these. Let's move on to this tray right here. So this tray has a couple of mascaras and an eye primer and a loose pigment. So the primer that I have in here is Urban Decay Primer Potion. This is the original formula. Let me see how much of this I actually have left, because I know this guy is running on its last leg. So I got about half of this guy left. So I am going to keep this guy because I do really love this primer, and I'm going to be focusing on using this guy up so that way I can switch over to using the Kulfi and using that guy, because I know this guy's going to last me a lot longer than this guy will. And then I'll go ahead and show you guys the loose pigment that I have in here. This is from Makeup Geek, and this is in the shade Kaleidoscope, and it's like a silvery base with a teal to like purpley pink shift. You're probably not going to see the pink shift really. Maybe, I don't know. I don't know if you guys will be able to see the pink at all, but this is beautiful. It is such a ethereal pigment. I wore this to work a few months ago. It was back in the spring, and I wore this to work, and I got so many compliments on it because it's just such an ethereal color to have on your lids. So yeah, definitely keeping this guy, partially because of the fact that it's a relic of the past, but also because it's just really pretty. Next, I have a little mini mascara of the Cali Ray Come Hell or High Water mascara, and got this in gratis, and I do like it. It's a really nice little mascara. Great wear time on it. Lovely wear time. And then I have this mascara, and I got this as a gift in like one of our goodie bags things that we had at work leading up to holiday. They had like at our holiday meeting, everyone was just like, oh, you can choose a bag and everything, and it's got free stuff in there. And this was one of the items in there. This is the Lash Class from YSL, and I tested this out and everything on like a disposable wand because I was just curious about the formula. I've never tried it before. YSL is not cruelty free, so they're not a brand that I go after and whatnot, but I still wanted to test it out because I've heard amazing things about it, and it's okay. So since I used a disposable wand on it, I am going to go ahead and just rehome it. And now we have this tray here, which is going to have two full-size mascaras in there, and then the rest are going to be lip products. So we're about to start making our way into lips now. This first mascara that I have here is the Lash Sculpt from ABH. I got this in gratis right around the time when it came out, and I do really like this mascara. It's a really pretty formula. I know that there's apparently like a new version of Lashgate going on right now where a girl used this mascara and was talking about how you don't need falsies, and yet she was wearing potentially falsies. This is a really nice mascara though. I really like it. It's really lightweight. It defines the lashes really well. Ooh, nearly dropped it. I really like it, so I am going to keep this guy. Now this other mascara that I have here, which I got in gratis, I am throwing this away. This is from Say. I hate this mascara. It's going straight in the trash. I hate it. I hate it so much. All right, so now we're going to move on into lip products, and this first guy is actually a product that I decluttered but brought back into my collection recently. This is the ABH liquid lipstick in the shade Crush. It's a really lovely soft pinky nude, really lovely color. I have the NYX Lip Lingerie XXL, and this is in the shade Unhooked. Now when you look on the outside packaging, it looks like it's going to be one color, but it's actually a taupey gray. And I've been wanting a lip color that is this kind of color in my collection again for so long. There was in the original lip lingerie formula from NYX and the liquid formula called Delicate Lust. That was basically the same color, but this formula here is actually really good. That original lip lingerie formula was so dry. It was so dry. I need to see if they have a version of what was it? Unbutton? No, it wasn't Unbutton. What was it called? I cannot remember. Push Up. That's what it was called. That was like my go-to nude for a long period of time. Even though I hated that formula, I love that color so much. So I need to see if they have like a dupe for that in this formula. So we have the Flower Beauty Miracle Matte Lip in the shade Scarlet Letter, right? Yes. And then we have the Charlotte Tilbury Airbrush lipstick, liquid lipstick thingy in Ruby Blur. I don't know the full name of this formula, but yeah. Both of these formulas are beautiful, absolutely beautiful. But I don't think you can get the Miracle Matte Lip anymore. But it's such a beautiful formula. It's such a comfortable formula too, and it's such a beautiful red. But this Charlotte Tilbury here, which I got the Charlotte Tilbury in gratis, the Charlotte Tilbury here is also a really beautiful formula. And so there's both of them swatched next to each other. This is going to be Scarlet Letter here, and this is Ruby Blur right here. I'm also wondering if I should even keep both, because I have another red liquid lipstick in my collection. Because that other red liquid lip, it's in a different tray, but this is Nurse from Sugar Pill. All right, so this bottom one here is Nurse from Sugar Pill. I think I like Nurse more. So I'm gonna part with both of these, and I'm gonna keep Nurse. God, I did not expect that to happen. I did not expect that to happen at all. Okay. All right. Okay. Okay. A decision was made. All right. That is it for that particular tray. I have to start being cutthroat again, because if I don't be cutthroat like I was last year when I was purging my makeup collection, I'm gonna be back to where I was in like 2020 and 2021, where I was just hoarding product for no reason at all. So I need to be cutthroat like this, because I mean, like, I've had this guy for months and I haven't used it. I've had the Miracle Matte Lip for months, for maybe even well over a year, and I haven't even used it yet, but I've held on to it because I love the formula of these liquid lipsticks so much, and because of the fact that they're no longer available makes me want to keep it. But no, I need to part with them. I can't just hold on to things because I like the formula on it. And here we have the final tray. So this guy here mostly has some Sugar Pill in here, but I have one thing from About Face. This is the matte painted lip color in the shade Sad Song. I really love this. I really love this color. It's a beigey nude. But on Ulta's website, it was described as like a soft pink nude. This is beige. This is straight up beige, but it actually looks really flattering on me, and the formula on this is lovely. I want to try out more from these. I had another shade that I picked up during the 21 Days of Beauty, and it was in the shade Slumber, and the color descriptions that they have on Ulta's website are completely wrong, because I think they described it as like a cool beige, I think is what they described it as. I can't remember how they described it, but it looked like straight up baby poop. It was not a good color. We have my Sugar Pill lippies right here. I have 3 liquid lipsticks and then a gloss. So we already know we're keeping Nurse here. And then I have Zero, which is their matte black. Really lovely black right here. And then I also have Sub-Zero, which is a black and teal with teal sparkle throughout it. Such a beautiful color. So beautiful. Keeping all 3 of those. And I'm also going to be keeping this gloss. This is the only real legit gloss that I have in my collection. And this is in the shade Bloom. It is so pretty. I had been wanting this gloss for so long, and then I finally had it. And I have worn this quite a few times. It is stunning. It is beautiful. I love it. I do want to touch on this guy. I actually keep this on my desk, and I got this in gratis months ago, and I'm almost out of it. I don't think I'm going to repurchase it though. And this is going to be the Tower 28 gloss in the shade Chill. that is how much I have left of this guy. And I treat this guy like a lip balm. I have this on today. It's more so like a lip oil in a sense for me, because it's like that glossy kind of formula, but it's like very hydrating for the lips. I do really like it. It's just not my favorite. And I'm thinking, because I think today is the last day that Ulta is doing their Black Friday deal, I'm thinking that I might get 1 or 2 of the Ulta lip oils and have those like stashed away in my collection, because I really love those Ulta lip oils. Let's go ahead and move on into the bullet lipsticks now. 3 of these have been discontinued, and we'll start out with those 3. So this first one here is Grayish from Kat Von D, and this is part of the Aesthetic Kiss lip line. And it's just, as the name would suggest, a grayish. Very beautiful color. One of my go-tos. And same thing goes for this guy here. This is in the shade Bow and Arrow. And it's just like a soft, cool toned brownie nude. Love these kinds of colors. These are like my everyday kind of lip colors for me. I know some people might say like that's a little bit untraditional and everything, but I don't give 2 shits and everything. I love them. Then we have the Sugar Pill Pretty Poison lipstick in the shade Glint. And I've had others of these lipsticks from them, but I've decluttered them all. And this is the only one that I've kept, and it is a metallic gold. It is so lovely. Let me make sure that it still is behaving well, and it is. Okay, there we have it right there. It's so pretty. It's so nice. It's oddly wearable for a metallic gold lipstick. And then the last 2 bullet lipsticks I have, this one is from the Ulta Beauty brand, and this is in the shade, I think it's in the shade Dusty Mauve. It doesn't have the shade name written on here, but it has the number, which is 330. I don't know if you guys are going to be able to see it or not, but it's in the shade 330. And like I said, I think it's Dusty Mauve. And I got this when trying to find a dupe for that grayish lipstick from KVD. And it's very close to it. It's not an exact dupe, but it's very close to it. And I do like the formula on this. It's a really comfortable little formula. And it's a nice color. Looks good on me. Definitely going to be keeping it. I remember the day that I got it, I took that Benefit girl and that Ulta around the entire store for about like 30 or so minutes trying to find a dupe for it. And I also went to my nearby Sephora and I took them around for about 30 minutes trying to find a dupe, but found one at Ulta. And then the last one that I have here is from e.l.f. This is their O-Face lipstick in the shade No Doubt, which is almost like a warmer version of Bow and Arrow. They're very close and similar, but like I said, this one is a bit warmer. I'll definitely show the side by side for you guys. Here's Bow and Arrow and here is No Doubt. As you can see, they're very close. The undertones are just a little bit different, but they're very close. Those are my bullet lipsticks and the last things in my eyes and lips drawer. All right, so now here's where things start to get more colorful and fun. Eyeshadow palettes. All right, so this first drawer, I don't think I'm doing any decluttering in this first drawer because I've been decluttering like passively and everything with this drawer, but I'll still show you guys everything that I still have though. So we'll start out with this guy. This is one of my favorite palettes in my collection. This is the Jackie Aina palette from ABH. Love this palette. Such a beautiful palette, such a beautiful color story, such a beautiful formula. Just perfect. Absolutely love this palette so much. I need to reach for it again. I haven't reached for it in a while, but trust and believe, when I first had this palette and everything, I was reaching for it constantly. We have the Rose Quartz palette from Huda Beauty, and I got this guy over the summer when it went on sale for 50% off, and it is a beautiful palette. I love the Huda Beauty shadow formula. I've had a few of her palettes over the years, and this one I feel is a good in-between of the nude and the light nude obsessions with a little something extra going on with it. And I love that light nude obsessions palette so much, but the shimmers in that palette are so fragile. So I'm so scared to have that palette in my collection again, because that's why I had to part with it, was because the metallics were just not salvageable after my move. Now this palette, I'm leaning towards decluttering it today, but I do want to play with it a little bit more before I make that decision, but I am leaning towards let's get rid of it. And this is the Norvina Volume 4 palette. And I found this at TJ Maxx. It was on there for like 17 bucks, so I got it for a really good deal, and I am so blown out right now. Beautiful color story, but the formula just isn't my favorite. I'm glad that I paid $17 for it instead of the original $60 and everything, but because I've tried this guy out and whatnot, I am hesitant to get, I think it's the volume 6, which is the rainbow one that I've been wanting to try out, because after trying this one out, it's just like, it's not that great. It's not that great. It's nice, but it's not that great. It's very dry. Everything in here is very dry. Oh wow, you guys are seeing a lot on my desk and I did not realize that. But yeah, so it's a nice little formula, but like I said, it's very dry. It's not really my favorite. You know what? I'm gonna part with it. We're just gonna part with it. All right, this next little palette I do want to keep, but I'm also kind of tempted to part with. But this was also dirt cheap. It was only about $4. And this is the My Rose Will Go On from Essence. And if you like the vibe and the idea of the Millennial Pinks palette from Melt, but you don't want to spend that price, which I know it's $20 on the Sephora website, but this guy is $4. And it's a very similar color story and a fairly similar formula. Only thing that I will say is that these shimmers just don't really perform well. Well, they're pretty soft, but I mean, like, they're not the most vibrant and shiny. I mean, that paler shade is pretty shiny, but the mattes in here are really nice. The problem that I have with these kinds of colors, though, is that they usually tend to just blend in together and whatnot. They don't really add, like, definition and depth to the makeup whatsoever, but I would rather pay $4 to get that kind of result than like Melt prices. The reason why I'm thinking that I might part with that one is because I can get a very similar vibe with this palette here. And this is the BH Cosmetics Iggy Azalea collab palette. This is the Totally 2000s Pink Sunglasses palette. And I actually repurchased this palette. I bought this palette years ago, back in 2021, when this collection was being phased out of my local Ulta back in my hometown, and I had it and I decluttered it because I was going to get the Huda Beauty Rose Obsessions palette, the Pastel Rose Obsessions, because this is a very similar color story to that palette, but I preferred the colors in this one, but I decluttered this palette before I got the Huda Beauty one, and then I regretted decluttering it, so I repurchased it, but it was only about like $5 on the BH site when I ordered it recently, which by recently I mean a few months ago. I really like this palette, and you know what? We're gonna part with the Essence. We're gonna keep this one. They're very similar color stories. I don't need to keep both, and I prefer the formula on this palette right here. So we're gonna go ahead and do that. Like I mentioned, I'm not pressed about the Essence one not working for me. It's only about like $4, so it's not that big of a deal. I do want to try out some more of those palettes and like the different color stories and see if they might perform a bit better, because I know in general these kinds of color stories, these kinds of pinks, they tend to not work the best anyways for whatever reason. Moving on to the next palette, we have the Glam Light Frosted Flakes palette. I picked this up from TJ Maxx a few months ago, and I've only played with it once. I need to play with it again. Oh my god, this is such a beautiful palette. I forgot about how beautiful this was. Oh my god, it's so pretty. It reminds me a lot of the Blueprint palette and stack from Melt, because you have like the very like warm orangey bronzy kind of colors up here, and then you have like your blues. It's so pretty, and the Glam Light formula is really nice. I have another Glam Light palette in my second palette drawer. Now we're gonna get into ColourPop. I have quite a few ColourPop palettes. I used to have way more, but I downsized tremendously. So this first one that we have here is the At Forest Sight palette, which was done in collaboration with Robbie Christie. And this is a really good dupe for the Subculture palette from ABH. Very similar color story. It's just a lot brighter. Subculture was a lot more muted and murky. This one is a lot more vibrant, more saturated. But it's still basically the same kind of color story. Beautiful color story for fall. Really love this. I haven't really used it that much. I think I might have only used it twice, but I still really love it. I'm definitely gonna keep it. Next up we have the Star Wars palette, and I have only used this palette once, but all the Star Wars palettes that I have from ColourPop are really just for collector's reasons because I am a slut for Star Wars. I even have the display that has this artwork on it here as a wall decoration. I grabbed it from like the Ulta that was in my hometown when they were like taking it down. I was just like, can I have that? And they're like, sure. And so it became mine. We have Darth Vader, which is a very cool tone palette with a pop of red here and a bit more of, I feel like a deep vampy red down here. Not really my favorite color story, but I still like it though and everything. Again, mostly have these Star Wars palettes from ColourPop for collector's reasons. And I hope that they put out a R2-D2 palette soon because they have C-3PO. They need to do R2-D2 now. We also have the Mandalorian here, which is very like grungy, kind of cool tone, kind of palette and whatnot. And this one, not the biggest fan of the color story on this one either, but again, collector's reasons. I still need to watch the new season of The Mandalorian, but I don't have Disney Plus. So yeah, I'm also like really blown out right now. Let me zoom this in so you can see the artwork a bit better. And we have the Child palette, which I really love the color story in this. It's a very grungy, murky green kind of palette. Really like the color story on this one, but again, I never really reached for it since the first time I used it, so yeah, I don't know how many times I had to keep saying it. These Star Wars palettes are collector's reasons. The last of the Star Wars palettes from ColourPop is the C-3PO, and this is just like a really basic, everyday, gold-toned neutrals palette, and it's not exciting by any means necessary, but it's C-3PO. Last ColourPop palette that I have here is, I believe it's permanent. I don't think they've discontinued this, but this is Going Coconuts, and it's a cool toned leaning true neutrals palette, and really like the color story on this guy. I haven't reached for it too often, but I do reach for this palette though, so I am gonna keep it. Or do I? Oh, let me go ahead and set it in the maybe pile now. All right, so next up I have this Makeup Geek custom 9-pan palette here. So I have 5 square pans and a highlighter in here. So there is another highlighter in my collection, but I keep it in this palette here. I wish that I would have been able to get this in like a compact so that way I could keep up with my other highlighters, because since it's not with my highlighters, I forget that I have this guy. So I wish that, I highly doubt that they have just like the compacts available on the Makeup Geek site, but I also don't want to place an order just to get a compact either. I don't know. I'll check it out later. Can't remember which ones are which. I know this is Hot Tamale and this is Unleashed. One of these is Pink of Me and one is Pinky Promise. One of these is Pink of Me and the other is Pinky Promise. I think that's the way that it should be. And this is Lavender Dreams. And then this is the highlight in Celestial. And Celestial, this highlight, y'all. This highlight. I'm not into the colorful highlighters anymore by any means necessary. But this shit is pretty. It is so pretty. Almost clear white base with a pinky purple shift. Next up I have the Pure X Robbie Christie double-sided palette. I have used this palette a lot. I've gotten a fair amount of use out of it. I know it doesn't seem like I have, but I have gotten a fair amount of use out of this guy. I even did a palette bingo with this palette when I first started creating content on YouTube again on this particular channel, and created a very Christmas appropriate kind of look in the middle of like late spring, early summer. This next palette is a palette that I'm so torn on whether or not I should keep it, because the collector in me wants to keep it because I wanted this palette for such a very, very long time. But the part of me that wants to keep product because I'm actually going to use it is like part with it. And this is the Le Jardin Volume 2 palette from Kylove. And I got this when the brand was going out of business, like when I got that color wash in Youth and Play. And the color story on this is so pretty. But the formula just isn't really all that exciting to me. It's a very run-of-the-mill kind of formula for me. I really do like the green in here, and the shadows in general perform really well. But I have a palette that has all the pinks and purples in it, and I love the formula in that palette so much more. And I can create the same look in that palette like I can create here. And I like the results better. God, fuck it, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna part with it. It pains me to part with it because, like I said, I wanted that palette for so long, and sadly it took the brand going out of business for me to be able to get it, because like full price, I didn't want to pay like, what was it, like $35 for this palette here. I didn't want to pay that kind of money for this palette. It's taking up space. I don't care for the formula. I'm gonna part with it. Next two palettes that we have here are both from Sugar Pill, and these are the two Fun Size palettes. And we have Fun Size 1, which is this pastel borderline neon leaning rainbow palette. And I ordered this guy the day that it launched, as well as Fun Size 2. Really love this palette. I've gotten a fair amount of use out of this palette, and I really do enjoy it. And now there's a loud-ass plane flying overhead. Fun Size 2 here, which is another pastel rainbow palette, but this one has more jewel tones towards the end of it, whereas the other one had some more neons going for it. And this one I haven't used as much, but I still really like this. These two palettes pair beautifully together, because I remember at work there was a weekend during June where they were just like, let's do pride looks and everything. And one of the looks that I did, I used both of these palettes in conjunction with each other, because when you look at the color stories next to each other, they go so beautifully together. The last three palettes that we have in this particular drawer are all from Lunar Beauty, which they are one of my favorite formulas on the market. First one that I'm going to show you guys is the Life's a Drag Facelift palette, and this guy I really do enjoy. I haven't played with the neutrals too much in this palette, but I've played with the brights a lot in this palette. This green, stunning. And the neutrals in here are quite nice as well. I want to say I did do like a neutral look not too long ago using this palette, but I can't remember if I actually did or not. But like I said, I've used the brights in here. Again, like I was talking about with the Fun Size palettes, I actually used the brights in this palette one of the days during that Pride weekend at work, and created a stunning like rainbow cut crease kind of look with it. And I just really love this palette, really love the formula on the Lunar Beauty shadows, and I really want that Siren Sunset palette so badly. I was so close, so close to ordering it this morning because of the Black Friday deal going on, because I would be able to save 20% on it, but I'm not gonna do it. I'm not gonna do it. I'm gonna wait till later to get it because my finances are a little too tight right now. I already bought something for Black Friday, and I'm just gonna leave it at that one thing. And possibly maybe a lip oil or two from the Ulta Beauty brand. But that's a big maybe on those as well, because I don't necessarily need them. Next palette that I have here from them is going to be Strawberry Dream, which is this guy right here. And I got this when the brand was being phased out of Sephora, and it is a beautiful little palette. I haven't reached for this guy in a while, which I definitely need to change, because this is a stunning palette. I got very lucky with my blue diamond not showing up like shattered and destroyed and whatnot, because this guy is so soft and it is so pretty. Oh my god, this guy is just so pretty. It's very chunky when you like swatch it and like play with it. Now that I've rubbed it off a bit, you can kind of see the color a bit better now on my finger. Oh, it's so pretty. But then we have my favorite Lunar Beauty palette, and probably my most used palette in my collection, Moonspell Volume 1. I love this palette so much. I'm so sad that it was limited edition and is no longer available, because it is such a beautiful palette. I got this when it launched. I ordered it that morning when it launched. Well, technically afternoon, because I'm on the East Coast, but still, love this so much. Such a beautiful palette. I even wore this when I went and saw a band called Moonspell earlier this year. They were the headliners, and the opening acts were Elaine and my friends over at Oceans of Slumber. Beautiful night, created a beautiful look using this palette. So yeah, I mean, what other palette would I wear to a Moonspell show than the Moonspell palette? Alrighty, so now we're in the final drawer here. So first up, let's talk about the sugar pill palettes that I have here. I have 2 other capsule palettes. I used to have all 4, but now I just have 2. So we have C2, which they released this one as like almost like a celebration when the brand went into Ulta for a brief moment in time. And I really like the color story on this one. And this one is just a really pretty color story, and I just really like it. I really like it. The formula is really good. I wore it recently and it's just really nice. Then I also have the C3 palette, which just says they're like goth fantasy kind of palettes, like very spooky, very Halloween appropriate kind of palette, kind of color story going on here. Really pretty. This blue, stunning. I have my 2 melt palettes. So I have the Bad Side Zodiac Air palette, because I am an air sign. This is that palette that I said that had a color story similar to that Le Jardin palette, just without the greens. And I really love the formula on this. I really love the formula on this. I think this is my favorite palette that I've ever had from Melt, honestly. So yeah, and I think it's still available on the clearance section at Sephora. And then we have the Muerte palette. This palette I have mostly strictly for collector's reasons, because I remember when this palette first came out, it was back in a time in which I could not afford Melt's palettes at all. I still can't really afford them now, but I got this guy when they randomly did a restock of it. I think it was in 2021 or in 2022. I can't remember when they did a random restock for it, and I made sure to get it the day that they restocked it, because I wanted this palette so badly, and the desire for this palette after it was gone initially was so high that people on platforms like Mercari were selling them for $300. So we have another palette that I really wanted for a long time, and this is the Whale Song palette from Menagerie Cosmetics. I mean, look at this packaging. Look at this packaging. It is absolutely beautiful. That is actually a big selling point for me on this particular palette, is the packaging. But the colors in here, though, are beautiful. You can see me working with this palette in my Spooky Stories and Makeup video that I did for The Deepest Part of the Ocean Is Not Empty, where I played with the greens in this palette mostly. And it's a stunning palette, stunning formula. The metallics in here are beautiful. Just a lovely little palette. I do want to try out more from this brand. It's just that because they are super indie, their prices are a bit up there, but still kind of want to play with more from them. But I'm also content with just having this possibly be the only thing that I have from the brand, because this is the main thing that I have just been always have wanted from them. Next up, we have the Club Nebula palette from Kaleidos in collaboration with Angelica Neek Feast. And I haven't really reached for this palette that much. I'm not gonna lie, it's not my favorite formula, but I do like the color story though. And I also kind of don't like the color story. I don't know, this palette, there are moments where I'm like very inspired by this palette, but then there are also moments where I'm just like not inspired. And I also know that Kaleidos is kind of sort of in their flop era a little bit and whatnot. Like their products were so innovative and just so out there and interesting for a long period of time, but lately their products have just been so bland and boring, and so it's just, I'm like, what's going on over there? I do really love Angie, I really do, and I am tempted to part with this guy, but at the same time though, I do want to keep it, because I mean, I've had this palette for a long time, because I got this when they did their first restock. And I remember staying up until I think it was 11 o'clock at night to order this. And that was in 2021, in the beginning of 2021. And I think I've only have used this palette twice. And I know that I have things that I'm holding on to for collector's reasons, but I also know that I have these colors in my collection already as well from formulas that I really love. I think I'm gonna part with it. I'm gonna part with it. God, that feels weird because I really do love Angie. I really do. But that particular palette, I don't know, there's just always has been something with it that's just like, I've always have liked it, but I've never loved it. I'm gonna part with it though, because I know that there's like somebody in my life will get a lot better use out of it and will love it way more than I will ever love it. So I'm gonna part with it. Hell, I could probably sell it on Mercari for a fortune, but I'm not gonna do that. So this next palette that we have here is a palette that has been long since discontinued. This is the Kat Von D Alchemist palette. I still use this palette. I've had this guy for a very, very long time. I got this back in 2020, and I still use this palette on a fairly regular basis, and I love it. I love it a lot. So I'm keeping it. I'll go ahead and do my bougie palettes next, which I only have but two. So I have a Natasha Denona palette. This is the Coral palette. This one has been discontinued. I got it through Sephora when it was being discontinued, and it's a really beautiful color story. I've been meaning to reach for it more, but I just keep forgetting to do so. But it's a beautiful formula, beautiful color story. Really like this one. It's the only Natasha Denona palette that I still have in my collection, but I've had multiple palettes from her over the years. The next bougie palette that I have here is the Marc Jacobs Iconic palette in Fantasine. And this palette, the formula from what I remember isn't very revolutionary. The color story isn't very revolutionary, but I love these colors. And I wanted this palette for such a long time. This was, out of all the iconic palettes, the one that I wanted the most. And I'm not entirely sure why that was the case. I don't know if it's because of like the white packaging with the rose gold lettering. I don't know if it was because of the color story and the palette. I don't know. But this was the one that I had always wanted. And when the brand was being phased out of Sephora and just, well, not really being phased out of Sephora, but when the makeup brand was going out and everything initially, I got this when it went on sale because I sure as hell was not going to be paying $49.50 for this palette. And instead, I think I paid $35, which I wish I would have waited a little bit longer for it to go on sale for $25, but hey, I didn't know it was going to go down that much. I'm going to forever keep this palette. This is like mostly collector's reasons for me. And I know, like, I could probably keep the Club Nebula palette and the Le Jardin Volume 2 for collector's reasons, but there comes a point where it's just like you can't keep everything for a collector's reason. Alright, so the next palette that we have here is the original collab that Angelica did with Odin's Eye, and this is the Hella palette, which I did keep the sleeve for this one because I really love the sleeve, because the actual palette packaging is a lot brighter. I like the spooky dark packaging here, which is why I keep the sleeve. But yeah, this is the color story on it though. Now this palette I really do enjoy. I've used this palette a couple of times, and I've worn it to work before. I wore it to work once. I wore it in my Dramageddon video, which if you didn't see that video, I did a deep dive into Dramageddon, which I do plan on doing a deep dive on Tati Westbrook soon. That video I'm probably going to film this coming week. I'm probably going to film it this coming week and hopefully have it up for you guys next week. But this is the Hella palette, which this palette has long been since discontinued. I know Angelica just released 2 palettes for Halloween with Odin's Eye, and those particular palettes I'm not that interested in. They're pretty, they're nice. There's a metallic green in one of the palettes that I'm just like salivating over, but I don't need to buy a palette just for one shade. So, especially when I already have metallic greens in my collection, but I don't have one that's that tone. But still, I don't need it. But I really do like this palette. The formula isn't necessarily my favorite, but I still really enjoy it enough to where it's like, even if I were to keep this for a collector's reason, I will actually still use this palette because it does work really well. The colors in here are beautiful. I really, really love this river shade down here. Really love this color. I have this magnetic palette here. This is from ColourPop, and this guy, I have some singles in here. So I have my Sugar Pill Pro Pants in here, and then I have these Makeup Geek foiled shadows here. And honestly, I think I'm gonna start decluttering some of these foiled shadows from Makeup Geek, just simply because I'm not really reaching for them. And so I don't need to keep them in my collection. We're gonna part with this metallic pink shade. This is in Nostalgic. This formula got discontinued long ago. I think this formula got discontinued, I wanna say in 2020, and it's 2023 now, about to go into 2024. I'm gonna go on a limb here and say that this probably isn't the best thing to pass on to somebody else. So I am just gonna go ahead and toss this guy. Blew my mind here is stunning. It is stunning. Absolutely oh god, this is very dry. Yeah, I do need a part with this guy. This guy is like so dry. But it's, oh god, it's such a pretty blue though. But I have a blue that is this color in that Frosted Flakes palette from Glamlight, so I don't need to keep it. Might even be able to part with Daydreamer here. This is such a beautiful lavender, but I think I have a lavender in this next palette that I'm about to show you guys. So I'm gonna leave that pan out for right now. But I will say this though, I am for sure keeping Limelight. Limelight is forever staying. It is the perfect metallic green. It's just so good. But the Sugar Pill Pro Pants that I have here, we have Taco, Bulletproof, Poison Plum, which has been discontinued, Love Plus, which has been reformulated, Flame Point, Valoria, and this is either Helium or Hypnotic. It's either Helium or Hypnotic. I don't know. They don't have the shade names on the back of them, but it's one of those 2 shades though. The palette that I think is going to have a metallic lavender in it that I will keep is going to be in this Glamlight ice cream palette, which I don't know if this palette is still available. I think it still is. The reason why I say that is because I got this guy on clearance from the Glamlight site, but it's a big palette, but it's got a lot of pastels in it, and you get some mattes and some metallics in here. And like I said, there is a metallic lavender in here, just so you guys can see the differences in tone, because the Glamlight has more of a purple base to it, whereas the Makeup Geek is a lot lighter. So the Makeup Geek is up at the top and the Glam Light is down here. They're very similar. They both have great shine. But honestly, if I'm gonna keep one of them, it's gonna be the Glam Light because it's already in a palette. So I am gonna go ahead and part with Daydreamer here. So I'm gonna go ahead and part with this guy, but I am gonna keep this Glam Light palette though, because it's very pretty. I've only have used it about a couple of times so far, but I definitely want to play with it some more because I mean, I really love the formula and their palettes and whatnot. This is only the second palette that I've ever had from them, but the formula in this is really good. And the final palette that I have in my collection is another favorite of mine, and it is the Nikkie Tutorials X Beauty Bay palette, which I do believe that this has now finally been ended. I think it's no longer available anymore, but this is a bifold palette, which I absolutely hate about the packaging. But this color story is just lovely. I have used every shadow now in this palette and it brings me so much joy. The only shadows in here that I don't care for are going to be Mama Tutorials. It's a very dry metallic. Plot Twist, because it's just very pale and it's just, yeah, it's just a very pale pastel. Fla, because again, another very pale pastel. And actually there's a fourth shade that I don't care for, and that is Basic Truth, because it just doesn't do anything. Everything else in here I really do love in this palette, and quite a few of the shades have like considerable dents in them because I do reach for this palette a good bit. And I love the packaging on the spooky side. It reminds me a lot of like the cover art style that the artist that does Blackbriar's cover arts for their albums and EPs and whatnot does. And it's just stunning, absolutely stunning. And yes, I just hit myself in the face with this palette. We're gonna ignore that. I think it's safe for me to be able to let this go. So I'm also gonna part with Going Coconuts. I've actually decluttered more than I anticipated on decluttering today, which I'm very proud of. I didn't expect to declutter as many palettes. I was just expecting to declutter but maybe like 1 or 2, but I decluttered 5, which I know is still not many, but for me, I wasn't expecting it. The whole purpose for this particular video is mostly just to show you guys my makeup collection and me basically reorganizing it and showing you guys the before and after of it being reorganized. But that is it for this video. I have been recording for 2 hours. This is going to be a long video for you guys. I hope you guys would have enjoyed it and whatnot. Just having me sit here talking about all my makeup with you guys today and just having a cool time talking about it all. That is it for this video. I hope you all enjoyed it, and until I see you guys in my next one, whenever that might be. Goodbye.